Ah, ah. Am I live? I hope so. Okay. I'm gonna find some music. Copyright free. Okay. So there's only really... Well... Okay. I just got back from work and the gym, and my legs are sore. So I know that when I wake up tomorrow to go back to work again, I'm not gonna be able to bend over. Or bend my legs at all. But... given the fact that I worked a lot today, I found myself in the habit or like in the feeling of like I need to get stuff done. So that's why as soon as I came back from the gym, I showered, I had dinner, and I came here to try and stream for like a 2-3 hour period. And it doesn't really matter if people show up or not, because I'm gonna turn this into a video later, and then if people watch it after I'm like not online, that's fine. In fact, that's like preferred. But the main discussion for today is when people start to become aware of themselves. Kind of like, I don't know, like the Matrix, when you are like aware that it is like a simulation or something like that. And I feel like I am a late bloomer. I didn't realize what I was doing until after college. And for me, I feel like a lot of people have some direction after high school, but I was not that person. And I started to go through the motions during my last 2 years of college, because that's when I actually consider myself to be a college student, because I spent my first and second year at community college because I was stupid. But I'm not gonna bore you guys with freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school. I will only talk about senior year, because that's when things got really interesting. So, because that is around the time where I started to like become aware of my situation and what I needed to do to really figure myself out. So starting high school of course is when you start applying for college. You write all these essays, you gather up all this money to send your applications in, and you gotta make sure that you list off your achievements, your extracurriculars, your scholarships and stuff like that. And the school that I went to was very competitive, or at least the program that I was in, called the IB program, was very competitive. And there were 3 levels in that program. I was at the lowest level because I chose that, but other people would choose the highest level diploma. But I knew I wasn't like that. And I chose that because I knew I wasn't as academically studious as other people. But even then, my head was still in the clouds. And I thought I had a chance to get into these top schools. I'm talking like Cornell, Georgia Tech, UC Berkeley, UCLA, all these crazy good schools. And I would choose, and the major that I chose was something like chemical, like biochemistry or something like that. Something really, really hard. And my grades were nowhere near close enough to back it up. Anything that was science or math related, I got C's. Freshman to senior year, I got straight C's. But everything else, A or B's. So if you ignore the subjects I was bad at, I was pretty good. But that applies to everybody. If you ignore the bad things, you can only look at the good things. But colleges don't do that. So I sent in my applications, and I sent them to the same schools that all these people would apply to as well. I applied to around 18 colleges, and I didn't really research which college was a good fit for me. I just applied to where other people were applying, because frankly in high school I was a sheep. So I applied, a couple months go past, and then this is when early admissions and regular decisions started to come out. And I noticed that other people were getting accepted. Northwestern University accepted early decision for electrical engineering, for mathematics. Somebody got into Cornell for political science, and somebody from our school got into Stanford on some crazy big scholarship because he was doing research for like bacteria growth at like a local university, and he was making strides because this was new information. So he was really good. And for me, it wasn't like that. I would get rejections one after the other, back and forth, just one after the other, non-stop. After the first one, I was like, well, that sucks. Didn't get waitlisted, I just got straight up rejected, but okay, we'll wait for the second one. The second one rolls in, and I'm like, alright, well, that's not exactly the outcome that I was looking for. What about the third one? I got rejected, and it goes on and on and on. And by the time that UC admissions came out, I was sweating because I got 0 acceptances and 0 waitlists, all rejections. And my friends that I was close with in high school, they were getting accepted. At least a few of them did. Not everybody, because UCs are still competitive. But at the end of the day, they got accepted to schools and I didn't. And it really started to eat at me. So I felt trapped. I felt trapped in the corner, and I needed a way out. Because I would hang out with these people every single day, and I would text them on the weekend, so it was like I could never get away from them. And they were my only friend group, so I had nowhere else to go. So I faked a story. And I faked it when UC Berkeley's admissions came out. People were sharing screenshots of them getting accepted with like the balloons and stuff, and well, I didn't get any, right? So what I did was that I decided that I would go on this journey to try and convince my senior class that I graduated. No, sorry, that I got waitlisted at Berkeley. And in my mind, I thought it worked, but this is where I got my first reality check that I really wasn't aware of what's happening. Because in my mind, I was like, damn, these people, when I told them that I got accepted to Berkeley, they're like, nice, dude, congrats. And they would stop. And I'm like, nice, I convinced them. But it never occurred to me that people can have conversations when I'm not there. That's crazy. When you think about it, you're like, no shit. But for me, I was so out of touch that it did not occur to me. And I managed to convince him for a while, but at the end of the day, everything came crashing down because graduation started to roll around. And during this time, the whiteboard where everybody would write their names underneath the school that they would get accepted to was basically finalized. And I could not put my name up there because there was a tradition where you could not put your own name up there. That way, anybody whose name is up there, everyone else knew about it because you had to tell somebody. And I did not have the balls to do that. Right? So graduation happens, and that's when I kind of have to admit my losses, and I'm like, okay, everybody knew. And I confirmed this because one of my friends told me, Michael, we all knew that you lied, but we didn't say anything because we felt bad. Essentially, we pitied you, and I was like, fuck. So I went to community college. And the first 2 years, I decided to like get my shit together, and I looked at myself and I was like, well, what do I want? And I wanted money. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to spend, a decade studying medicine. So what else can I study? And I looked at law, and I was like, all right, well, I'm already studying history, and history is a very common transition to go study law. So I'll go do that. So that was my path. I worked a part-time job during my first 2 years of community college just to save up some money, which I ultimately just wasted on whatever. But it was a good work experience. I got to experience customer service for the first time, and it sucked, but I learned a lot. So that happened, and then I ended up transferring to UCLA. Ooh, right? Big school. Studied history there, and then this is where I really started to get aware of some things. Because I started to question whether or not law was for me. Because I felt like, again, I just looked at the common path that everyone else took, and it didn't settle with me, but I decided to not question it because the paycheck could be really big. So I didn't really think much of it, and I didn't really do much. And the reason why I thought so much about this was because, honest to God, the classes, the history classes, were not that bad. I had to put more effort into showing up and taking my earbuds out than I did to like focus on the material and write the essay. That sounds really pretentious, but that's the reality of the situation. I would never pay attention to class, and then the person I would sit next to would actually get mad at me because they realized that I scored higher than them when they spent a week busting their ass trying to write this paper, and I wrote one draft and I outscored them. So that gave me a lot of time to think about other stuff. And I sat down one evening and I realized that I was running out of time because I'm about to graduate college, and then I need a job to pay off the debt. And I was like, what kind of job do I want? And I came to, I think it was 2 conclusions. One, if I'm going to suck dick for the rest of my life, and that basically means like answer to someone else's calls, like a boss, I might as well try my best to see what it's like to suck my own dick, be my own boss. I make the calls. I make the decisions. I want to see what that's like, because that appealed to me. And my second conclusion was, even if I'm making a lot of money, what is the point to all of it if I'm too busy sitting in an office kissing someone else's ass? That's when I did a little bit of research, and I realized in order to make the big bucks in law, like big bucks, I'm talking about $250,000 starting salary straight out of law school, you need to work for a private company in like New York, and you need to work your fucking ass off constantly, because essentially, even though you have a boss at your office, your client is also your boss. They can yell at you as much as you want, and you need to listen to them because they might have new evidence, want to file something new, and then you got to communicate this to the other lawyers and to the other people, and then you got to make sure all the paperwork is right. It's such a clusterfuck, and some of these cases can last for years, and you got to be on top of all of it, because if you fuck it up, they're not going to get satisfied, and they might file a complaint about you, and that might affect your base salary. Because I also know that the top lawyers get a cut of the company's profits, but if people don't like you, you're not gonna get that shit. So that's the second thing that I realized. I was like, okay, well, even if I make a lot of money, if I'm stuck in office all day gaining weight, fucking up my body, then what's the point of it? And then that's when I just was really honest with myself, and I was like, okay, look, law is not for me. What else can I do? And honestly, I didn't really know, but the one thing that I observed about myself was that when I did have something to say, I would explain it a lot. I was a talker if someone else would initiate. And that's one thing I was really comfortable with, that I didn't really hate. That was the least thing that I hated. I could go on and on and on and on about a certain topic and just keep on driving the conversation forward. So I was like, okay, well, what kind of job lets me not slave away at an office all day and lets me call the shots? YouTube and streaming. And I know how difficult it is to be a YouTuber, be a streamer, because there are so many people doing this thing. But I was like, you know what? I'm in my 20s, I'm in my mid 20s, and I might as well try before I, ultimately go back to school to study something else that will give me a better work-life balance. That is something I really wanted to try. And I set out to do that. I was like, okay, look, I'll give myself X amount of time and see how far I can get. And if I can't support myself by the end of that time, I will be honest with myself and say, you've had a good run, you've tried your best, but time to go back and be like everyone else. And then I would just have to live my life sucking someone else's dick, presumably for a very, very long time. And that's why I'm here. I think I have stuff to say, and it might not be relatable for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, to get started on YouTube, you just need somebody to look at you and think, well, I think he's worth my time. So that's what I'm trying to do. I just need to get a small audience first, and then I can cultivate it by interacting with them. But getting your initial viewership is really hard. So I'm trying to, through the streaming process, is try to present myself in a way where I am the best version of me. Somebody who doesn't talk about the doom and gloom type stuff, who doesn't talk about heavy topics, just kind of talks, chills out, and has some insight when I'm in between making content. Because at the end of the day, even though like the parasocial relationship thing exists for streamers, I think that's just inevitable. You're going to get attached to your viewers to some degree because you rely on them. But it's your job to make sure that you don't take it to a level that's concerning. And really, that's just the first step, or that's just one aspect of streaming. So I might as well try. So here I am trying, and I did stutter a lot when I'm telling the story, and I might have gotten sidetracked a little bit. But that was when I became aware, because one, I fell behind in high school. I realized that everybody knew my bullshit, even though I thought I was like deceiving everybody. Then I realized that I needed to make a decision quick. And that's when I realized that all of my peers had something in mind that they would just commit to. But I didn't want to be a sheep anymore. And that's when I looked at myself and made the decision to try out YouTube and see how it goes. And because of that, if I'm going to make a decision to control the direction of my life, I might as well be in a position to do something that I like, that can also be profitable, without having to answer someone else's calls or whatever. But that's really it. And so here I am, and I am working a job in the meantime. But that's why I kind of started streaming. I'm not the best storyteller, I will admit, but we all gotta start somewhere, and this is my starting point. I do have experiences to talk about, and I think, at least to some people, it might be worthwhile. So, one thing that I'm gonna start talking about next is the reality of college, particularly UCLA. But I don't know how fast I can do this because, well, I don't have the stuff ready. But that might be a stream for tomorrow. And I might come back. Actually, you know what? I will come back. And maybe this time I will actually look at the camera, or at the very least face the camera like this. Because right now I am a bit shy, so that's why I'm tilted like this. And I'll try to slow down and just talk. But that's it. It was a short stream. It's only 20 minutes long. But I started, and I'm going to keep up this momentum. I'll be back tomorrow with one more story, and I'll try to organize it better so the story flows a little bit better, alright? And maybe this time it'll be more content worthy because I'm providing value about school, something that everybody can relate to. Alright, so if you see this after the stream ended, thanks. I don't know why you clicked on this, but thanks for clicking and watching. And I'll see you tomorrow. Same time. Probably maybe 8:30-ish. Maybe a bit earlier than that. But that's it. Cool. Goodbye.